Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday, August 3rd. And as always, we'll take a look back at last week's eBay auction results. We're going to talk about a few things that have been going on this week. It's sort of quiet in August, typically on the web, with most auctions, especially on eBay during the month of August. People are on vacation. A lot of Europeans are away, so things are a little quiet. And so we looked around at some other things. One of the things that we did this week, though, was that we posted a new video about the auctions coming up on Live Auctioneers for the month of August, and all the fakes that are on there. And we included our old friends Lauren Galleries down in Roswell, Georgia. Here's one from Z Art Galleries and so forth. They're all fakes, all copies, all reproductions. And we did find out from somebody today, apparently Lauren Galleries and Eden Galleries are one and the same company. They've sort of folded up their tent and taken the circus down the road 30 or 40 miles. His experiment, I guess, went to register on Eden Galleries, and he was redirected over and registered now with Lauren Galleries. All right, so just a little heads up on that. I also had a conversation this week with Rick Cervantes over at Heritage Auctions. He's in charge of their Asian department. He used to be at Freeman's, been around for a while. And he was telling me about some of the horror stories that they've been getting on things coming in, fake provenance, fake receipts, not bad looking copies, but they've been drilled and chipped and damaged to make them look like they're old. The drilling of bases on vases to make them look like they had once been lamped is an old trick. That's been going on now for about 10 years, but it's getting worse and worse. And now they're even actually doing breaks and repairing pieces and all this other silly stuff. All right, so I just wanted to get everybody sort of up to speed on that. The other thing I wanted to point out was this. This is a pair of vases currently. Shows you how far fakes are going these days. This is a pair of vases that Legacy Chinese has up right now on eBay. They're getting bids on this. Let me see what they're up to. Up to $20, not much so far, but they have a few days to go. These are brand new copies. These are absolute modern 18th century fakes of 18th century export pieces, and if you have trouble telling the difference, you have to have seen quite a few of these to really get it. But here's how they did people on the new examples, the fakes. All right, and this is how they do them on the originals. Look very carefully at the faces, the expressions, the shapes of the faces, the way the eyes are done, and also the brush techniques in the background. All right, we'll go back to it. There's the fake, and let's see here. Here's another one. This is an old one that just sold, it sold last week. We're going to be talking about the price result on this later. Again, it's a very different sensitivity to the painting. It's not quite as harsh. Here's an old one. Again, the faces, nice expressions. Pay close attention to the backgrounds, and notice how fluid the drawing is on these. The drawing on the copies is very stiff. The figures are very stiff. The faces are very stiff. The expressions are not warm. They're not interesting. There's a lot wrong with it. There's another one, okay? So just keep that in mind. But they are making copies of these 18th century pieces now increasingly, okay? So look carefully at known authentic examples and then compare them to the one you're looking at if you're not absolutely sure, okay? All right. And now on to some of the things that sold last week. And then we're in a lot of things. We're going to go through this fairly quickly, actually. This was a nice soapstone carving of a late 19th century one of an immortal holding up, looks like he's holding a three-legged toad or something, but beautifully done. Nice quality, nice decoration around the eyes. Here's a picture of the base. It's an old one. You know, this is typical of later 19th century examples. But the robes were rather nicely done. The folds were nice. There were these little wave patterns incised into it. It's a nice little figure. And it did fine. It brought $560, but it was a good buy. I like those old carvings. And I thought this was a pretty charming one, okay? And then on to this. This was a nice mid-late 19th century tray. Good-looking enamels on it. It had a nice brown dressing on the rim, which was a good addition. Here's a picture of the back of it. Very typical of these. Unglazed, flat, sort of an oatmeal color, okay? And it did pretty well also. It brought $538, okay? These are turning up here and there once in a while. This one was nice, though, because it had script on it. And anything with script brings a bit of a premium. All right, and then we had this nice big rose mandarin punch bowl. This was a good big bowl, nice one with good color, and it was overall in nice condition from what I remember of it. It was the exterior was well done, good rich colors, good depth color. It was a good size bowl too. I think it was around 15 or 16 inches. There's a picture of the foot rim on it. There it is, okay, and it did fine. It brought $1,647, which is a pretty good price for that. Rose mandarin, good mandarin bowls are bringing more and more. The seller had it listed as rose medallion, but if you looked at the video we did a few weeks ago, you know that it's not. It's mandarin, but that's okay. Anyway, it was a nice bowl. Okay, Great Antiques 12 had this up, and this was a lacquer box that was up, and somebody wrote and said they didn't think it was actually lacquer, and I went back to double check. I was wondering if I made a mistake, and no, this was a lacquer box. It clearly was. Here's the interior of it. And you can see here where the edges are chipping away, and you're starting to see some of the liner underneath. It was done. This is not a chin lung box. Okay, it has a chin lung mark on it. These copies were done predominantly toward the latter part of the 19th and early 20th century. But this was still a nice box, and you can see here where the lacquer chipped away, and you can see the cloth liner that the lacquer was laid over. Okay. Here's some carving and so forth, and it was a perfectly good one, and a lot of people thought it was pretty nice, even with the damage, and it still brought $1,900, okay? But it was a good-looking thing. But they do make a lot of copies of these, so you have to be very careful right now, very careful, all right? And this was something I wanted to point out, because as you know, a couple of weeks ago, we added a Buy It Now page, and to the auction pages, because there are people that are finding they get pretty good buys on Buy It Nows, especially if there's a make an offer button. And this was something that I came across just by chance. Okay, this is a Buy It Now plate that's up right now. Chin to Command has that. And many of you are familiar with this seller. They get pretty good things. And they were big auction sellers for a long time. They decided to go to fixed price sales. And this is a plate that he has up right now for $1,100 or make an offer. Okay. Now we're going to go to the next one. This was an auction item that just closed last week. There it is. Okay. Almost identical plates. Almost identical. Both Kangxi. The differences are minute at this point. Okay. And this plate sold for $1,200 at auction, okay? And this plate has an $1,100 buy it now price, or you can make an offer, all right? So if the other one went for $1,200, pretty good chance you could probably buy this one for $950, all right? All right, this one's slightly smaller by maybe an inch or so, but they're basically the same plates, okay? Just a little reminder on that. That's not a bad way to get things, all right? And now on to this. This was a very brightly colored late Yongchen, early Qinlong Famille Rose export, or not so much export, but plate. Beautifully done with the bird in the middle. I'm not crazy about the way the guy shoots his pictures, but here it is. Okay, it would have been nicer on a stand, but that's a nice old plate. Well done, vibrant use of Famille Rose. There's a nice yellow in there, a good clear yellow, and this was a pretty good buy. It went for $172. All right, this was a seller we hadn't seen before. He's in Lovell, Maine. I'm not sure who it is, but they've sold a lot on eBay. I don't think a lot of Chinese stuff, but that was a good plate, and I think a very reasonable price for that. That's a vibrant plate for $170. And the shipping was only $11 to where I am. That's pretty good. And then on to this. This was an early 19th century blue and white bottle vase, done very much in the Kangxi style, obviously, but I think it was a little bit later, but a perfectly nice looking vase. Here's the foot rim on it. And you can see the glaze. It had a little nick out of the foot. It might be late 18th century too. Looking at the bottom, maybe late 18th, early 19th century, but a nice bottle. Had a nick out of the foot here, but it wasn't in the glaze. It was just on the paste. And had a minor firing flaw right there where it was touching something in the kiln. And it went very reasonably, $190. This was Antiques Copenhagen had this up for sale over in Denmark, okay? And as I recall, it was about 6 or 7 inches tall, or 13 centimeters, so about 6 inches tall or so, 5 or 6 inches. Nice little bottle, though, in a perfectly reasonable price. You can get some good buys in the summer on eBay because so many people are off, all right? And this was a nice vase. This was a rather pretty flambe glazed bladder form or bottle vase that a fellow had up. We had it in the letter. It was a nice one. Here's a picture of the bottom. Okay, it's a 19th century piece. You can tell because the sort of sloppy under here, and there was some areas where the glaze sort of dripped over and so forth. But perfectly nice. That nice iron oxide line here. Nice thickening of the bubbles. Good glaze on it. The overall shots, he didn't do the piece any favors the way he did it. You should have been more careful and to get the texture of the glaze into the pictures. It's hard to do. I'm not criticizing him, but at any rate, here's the white lip on the rim and all that. This was a good bottle, and it ended up selling for $1,625. Okay, and this was another seller we'd not seen much from before. He's a seller out in San Diego. All right, some of our regular sellers I think are taking time off, so we're seeing some other things pop in. All right. And then this was on Chamberlain Antiques last week, had this nice ribbed Kangxi jar. I liked it quite a bit. I thought it was a nice example. Good looking foot rim on it. Nice soft blue going to dark in places. And it did pretty well. It brought $1,570, okay? But that was a good buy for one of these jars. These rib jars are fairly unusual, and that was not a terrifying price, all right, at all. All right, and then on to this. This was the teapot we saw a few minutes ago that was sold last week for comparison to the copies. This was a real one. This is a rather nice one too. A lot of gold on the handle, in the spout, and on the finial on top. But well decorated, nice proportions, and in good shape. And it did just fine. It brought $1,198. Which is a pretty good price for one of those. Sometimes that you can pick these up on here for, $600 or $700. This one went all the way. Maybe a collector that just had to have it to add to something. But it was also good size. It had a nice size to it. All right, and then on to this. This was that little Ming bronze figure. Nice small one. Nothing extraordinary, but nicely cast with a good surface on it. And this was a real case showing you how you can still buy nice Ming things for a very reasonable price. This was a charming little figure. It was only like 3 or 4 inches tall, as I remember. And it went for just $96, okay? That was a good buy for the week. Somebody got a good buy. How big was that? 8 centimeters. So it was about 3 or 4 inches tall. It was small. But that was a pretty cute thing. I liked that. All right, and then on to this. This was that Ming Dynasty jar that had been made into a lamp. And a lot of people don't like them, but if you'd like to have a nice Ming lamp, here you go. And here's a picture of the top. It had been sort of worked down. It looked like polished out so that it fit the cover over it. All right, but this was a nice, authentic Ming example with good color, perfectly nice, and it would make a fabulous lamp in your house. Let's face it, okay? There's nothing wrong with buying a great lamp made from a Chinese vase. If you collect this stuff, it really adds to a room. And it wasn't an outrageous price for a big pot like that, $1,150. Okay, I think that was pretty reasonable. It was originally probably something that had a bit of a neck on it, and they just cut it back. But still, very nice-looking piece of porcelain, okay? And now on to some of the things that sold on Catawiki last week. There were some nice buys on there if you paid attention. There was this bowl, a nice Kangxi period molded bowl. It only went for $140. It was a pretty good little bowl. Not bad money, not bad at all. And then on to this. This was that nice Famille Rose early Chin Lung bowl. Here it is. And good looking. It had a star crack or star line or something on the basement. But overall, a base rather. But overall, a very nice bowl. And it's sort of an unusual pattern. And it went for just $120, okay? And so it's always worth checking over. This was something I liked. I like this sort of funky, earthy stuff. This was a big piece of fungus, tree fungus. And those of you that follow scholars' objects know that in China, especially in the 18th century, in the late Ming, scholars would take those giant tree funguses that grow at the base of trees, and they would break them off, and they would oil them and finish them, and often put calligraphy. The rarest ones have calligraphy on the undersides. All right, so they put a poem on here and some inscriptions and whatnot. All right. Now I have no way of knowing if this is a Chinese one or not. How do you tell? But at any rate, this is a very nice piece of fungus if you collect scholar-type objects. Here's a shot of it there. Beautifully oiled, nice surface. I like that. And apparently a lot of people liked it. It went for $451, okay? If you collect scholars' objects, this is one of those sort of you must-have-it types of things, okay? And then on to this. This may be the best buy of the week as far as auctions go on eBay or Catawiki. This was a really nice 1850 Chinese export lacquer game box with its pieces. Okay, all the little ivory pieces, the pin boxes, and the clamps and all that for the table. And this was very nice. And it went for just $152, which seems like a terribly good, an awfully good price for that. Very reasonable. It did have the old, the old crack on the top and had some wear around the edges, but with all the little parts and fittings, that was a pretty nice buy. All right, so just check over there. I've been in talks with them about some of the people on the forum mentioned a few issues. One of them was one of the places where you bid, the bid spots where you type in your bids on there is a little confusing, and they're working on clarifying that. And they would like to build the site up, obviously, to get some more sellers in there and make more of a go of it, because eBay has lost a lot of sellers, and they need a new home, and hopefully we'll be able to figure out something for a few of our friends, see how they're doing. All right, and we updated the fixed price sales, the buy it nows for the week, and we'll be doing more on that this coming week. All right, and on to this. Here we go. These are things that are closing the next day or two. There are two of these ink drawings up of these kids from the same seller. I think they close on Saturday. These are really rather nice drawings, and they come framed. They're good size, and they're going for a very modest price right now. They close Saturday, tomorrow, and they're at $103 and about $110 respectively. These are nice old late 19th, possibly early 20th century drawings. This one of kids flying kites. Very nicely done, okay? And this will be in the newsletter this week, and the seller erroneously has listed this as Chinese. This is a Japanese hand warmer, okay? Not an incense burner, hand warmer. All right, he put it up. Honest mistake. He's not being deceptive, but I wanted to mention it. So if you see it and you're wondering what looks Japanese to me, you're right. It is. It's a Japanese hand warmer that he listed as Chinese for some reason. Probably just typical. Most hand warmers you see are Chinese, and but this one is a Japanese one, but it's a good one, and it's made. It has bronze on it and beautifully made. Okay, see how that does. That'll be in the newsletter. It closes in 8 days. All right, and there's also a very nice piece of Japanese cloisonne on here this week. This is a beautiful thing. It's very much in the manner of Namakawa Yatsuyuki. It's not by him. It is by another maker, but it's of that school. Hayashi Kodenshi, they say, is the maker of this one. But a nice-looking piece of cloisonne, very fine with its top, and it even has this little finial still attached to it, which is pretty unusual for these. So that's great. And next is this clobbered. There's a couple of clobbered pieces. It'll be in the newsletter this week. This is one of them, a nice-looking clobbered teapot from the EU. It's got an old repair here on the handle, which is not unusual. These handles always seem to have repairs, or 80% of the time they do anyway. A little bit of wear to the sepia and so forth on the top, but nice clobbering on this. It was well done. Here's a view of the inside. There's the bottom. Good 18th century foot on that. And currently it's up to just $36. It closes Tuesday. If I guess it says here is a crack on the associated crack on the top somewhere, a line. So you want to check that out. But a nice piece of clobberware if you're into that stuff. All right, and we'll be doing more next week and adding on to things as always. And if you enjoy the videos, give us a thumbs up. We'll always leave a comment. We had a lot of comments on the video on the fakes. I guess people like to hear about those. And be sure to subscribe to us here on YouTube and subscribe to us over at the forum and on the newsletter. If you subscribe to the forum, you also have to subscribe to the newsletter separately. Those are two entirely different databases. We're trying to figure a way to merge them, but it's a little complicated right now, especially for me. All right, so have a good weekend, and we'll see you all next week. And I hope you find out something that you love out there while you're hunting around. If not, go fishing, go to the beach, play golf, have a cookout. All right, see you all later, and take care. Bye-bye.